It is Monday, and everyone knows what time it is. It is time to react to the fallout of the insane week that was NFL free agency week one, basically, because that's all it is week one. There's still more hectic stuff that's coming our way. We're going to talk some Eagles free agency. We'll talk about what teams improved, what teams got worse, what teams made good decisions, what teams did not, all that good stuff. And we'll talk about the Cincinnati Bengals finally deciding to pay their wide receivers. So do us a favor. Kick back, relax, because episode number 35 of 609 Sports Talk, it starts right now. And welcome in, everybody, back to another edition of 609 Sports Talk live here on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, you can always catch us Wednesdays on Spotify. That is when each of these episodes drop over there. So do us a favor, go hit that like on Facebook, go follow us over on Spotify, and please hit that subscribe on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. Of course, you guys know this is the show that ignites fans. It unites fans, ignites the base. Some fans were ignited last week. Okay, there was some igniting last week. Some fans were ignited by insanity that is NFL free agency. But no, this is the show that unites fans, ignites debate, and we are your hosts, Sam Nelson, Tyler Adams. I can't believe I screwed that up.
Man, I mean, we don't condone any fans igniting themselves. You can get a little pumped up. That's all right.
Maybe you're a Cowboys fan.
It was bound to happen one of these days, Sam.
Hey, look, it took 35 episodes for me to screw that up. Give me that credit. It took 35 episodes in for me to screw that up. So that means 35 more until I do it again.
Yeah, episode 70.
But look, we have got a crazy show to talk about tonight. We have a lot of stuff going on. NFL free agency is already, the first wave is over. We're kind of in that wave 2, wave 3 area now. Eagles just made a signing about 20 minutes ago, so we'll talk about that later on in the show. We'll talk about the fallout of the first week of free agency, what teams had a really good week, what teams didn't. We'll talk about quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers still out there. Russell Wilson still out there. Wait to see what's going on there. We'll talk about where we think their best landing spot is. But first on the docket, before we do get to the show here, just for anybody who did not see the Facebook announcement, starting next Monday, 609 Sports Talk will be live every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Little uptick from 5:30. Scheduling issues, not issues, but new schedule. Got to start at 7 from now on. So if you guys are on here at 5:30 and you're thinking, what the heck? That's because you're an hour and a half early. So for anybody who missed the Facebook post, 609 will now be live every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we will still be bringing all the greatest talk around the world of the NFL and all that good stuff. But now, Tyler, we got to talk. I think that's what we do here, right?
No, we ignite fans around here.
We just ignite. We gaslight them. But anyway. Oh, God. Anyway, last night, Bengals make their move. Finally, after all these freaking months of waiting, the Cincinnati Bengals finally did it. They agreed to terms with their star wide receivers. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have finally been paid. They agreed to terms with Jamar Chase on a 4-year, $161 million contract extension, that includes $112 million guaranteed. He is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Higgins got 4 years, $115 million, and I believe the first 2 years of that deal are guaranteed. I don't know if that's just guaranteed in general, or or fully guaranteed. But he is now the highest paid wide receiver 2 in football. Tyler, I would just start the question for you. What took so long?
Well, what took so long is they're not the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm finally glad to see that, they did right by T. Higgins. We all knew they were going to pay Jamar Chase eventually. They had to. They didn't have a choice. T. Higgins was a big question mark. A lot of us thought he was going to walk. A lot of teams thought he was going to become available, possibly trade target for him. But they franchise tagged him, and ultimately they came to an agreement on an extension. So they locked up Joe Burrow's top 2 targets. Now he's going to at least have 2 people to throw the football to while he's running for his life. So there's some sort of upgrade, I guess, if you call it that, in a way. But they haven't made many improvements to the offensive line. I don't think they've made any moves for the offensive line so far in free agency. So I guess they're going to try to address that in the draft. Because outside of Orlando Brown and maybe their center Karras, I couldn't tell you what they got.
Well, they released Alex Kappa last week because Kappa has been brutal since signing there. So, But personally, it's about time. I don't think there's anybody that's going to disagree with it. It's about time that they paid these 2. These 2 should have been paid probably a year ago.
Yeah. Before CeeDee Lamb got all that money and everything. You got to be ahead of the times, not behind.
Yeah, and that is why, people say, oh, all you do is talk about the Eagles with this. This is why the Philadelphia Eagles are the way they are. They saw the way the market was going last year, and they decided to go in there and take care of their guys early. Pay Devontae Smith now. Devontae's only making $25 million a year. Pay A.J. Brown, who's now making $32 million a year. So you don't scrap yourself for future years in all this money. And the Bengals had no choice but to do this. I don't think there's a disagreement. The Bengals had no choice.
Yeah, it was either pay him or let him go.
Yeah. I will agree with you. I thought T. Higgins was definitely gone. I did not think T. Higgins was getting brought back. So, I'll say that. I thought T. Higgins was the most likely of the 2 to go. Well, clearly, right? Who's going to get rid of Jamar Chase?
No, that's not happening.
No. But now, like you said, where do they go from here? Where does this leave somebody like a Trey Hendrickson? Where does this leave the state of their offensive line? Because it took the Bengals this long to pay these 2. I'm not going to trust in the Bengals front office to figure it out and patch up the other areas.
Yep.
They're not a smart organization. So, what do you think is going to come next after that?
I don't know what's next after this. I mean, are we talking in terms of the Bengals? Or talking about in terms of like other wide receivers?
Oh, other wide receivers. Some wide receivers are thinking they want a redone of their deal. But, I mean for the Bengals in general, because I'm assuming the next thing has to be getting something done with Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, he seems to be on better terms with the team after hearing, those 2 got paid. But what is their capital looking like after those deals?
Who even knows? Well, because they don't. I forget those deals don't kick in for. Well, T. Higgins' deal will kick in soon, but I think Chase still has another couple of years until his kicks in.
Yeah, I think so.
So maybe, I mean, a Trey Hendrickson deal has to get done because they've already lost Sam Hubbard. Their defense is already depleted as it is.
Yep.
So Anthony, they probably are going to have to trade Hendrickson. I don't see a scenario where they don't have to. I just realized that we don't have the chat up on the screen this week, and I'm totally okay with it. But no, I have to agree with Anthony. I don't see how they pay Hendrickson now.
Yeah, I mean, they just gave those 2 huge deals. Like, they still have to think about other aspects of the team. They go and pay Trey Hendrickson. Then what do they got on? They can't spend any more money on defense.
They can't do that in general. I mean, let's look at the state. Let's look at the state here. Let's look at the state of the Bengals' entire team here. I mean, offensive. I mean, and actually, no, this is the third deal they've thrown out to one of their guys. Because remember, they also brought Mike Gesicki back as well.
Yeah, true. And Gesicki had a big impact for them on their offense.
Yeah, he finally gave them a tight end that Joe Burrow trusted. So I mean, he's not. I mean, he's making $25.5 million on his deal for 3 years. So it ain't T. Higgins or Jamar Chase, but offensive line. Let's look at that. Well, you have Orlando Brown. They re-signed Cody Ford. They have Ted Karras, like you said. It's just not.
That's not good.
It's not. They have Amarius Mims, who they drafted last year out of Georgia. So do with that what you will.
Yeah, that's not too promising.
But in terms of their defense, Hendrickson's there right now. They did re-sign B.J. Hill. I mean, he's been good for them so far throughout his. I mean, he's been good for the 4 years that he's been there. So they did bring him back. Is this the Miles Murphy I'm thinking? Yeah, this is. They drafted Miles Murphy last year in 2023 out of Clemson. Not much of an impact so far. But outside of Trey Hendrickson, the only notable names defensively that I see are Jermaine Pratt, who's, I believe, asked to be traded. Yeah, he requested a trade weeks ago. Logan Wilson, who he's solid as a linebacker. And their secondary is good luck. I mean, they got a couple players that I know. Like, they have Geno Stone, who is pretty solid as a playmaker for them. They brought him over from Baltimore 2 years ago.
Okay.
They have Cam Taylor-Britt at corner. He's solid, but still just it's not a good.
One.
I don't either. They have Dak Hill still, but he's coming off an injury. So, again, what's up, Georgie?
What's up, Georgie?
Georgie, our friend over from the Dueling Aces, he was on with us last week, listening to us as he's still working. Oh, so we're helping Georgie through the workday. I'm glad to hear it. Glad we're able to get people through the workday. But I think what's the biggest issue with the Bengals here is they just waited too long. This should have been done. This should have been done last year.
Yeah, it should have been something they didn't even have to worry about heading into this offseason, but
No.
they waited. They thought that they could make something happen. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know if they were thinking that T. Higgins' value was just going to drop out of nowhere.
You're probably hoping T. Higgins had a down year.
Yeah.
And then Anthony says 80% of Cincy's drafts are defensive players. Yeah, and if they are, and guess what? If it continues to be like that, that's fine. Who's blocking Joe Burrow?
Yeah, true.
Tyler, you're the one that brought that up right to start the show. Your concern is still that offensive line.
It is. They allowed 48 sacks last year. It was tied for 5th. It's not good. It's not ideal.
No, so
because you got to protect Burrow. I mean, he's been hurt before.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Did you know T. Higgins and Jamar Chase don't look as enticing when Joe Burrow's not on the field?
oh no, they do not. So, if you just look at this, the number, I mean, like I said, they got what they deserved. I mean, these guys were both deserving of the money they got. I'm not trying to swing anything differently there, but Jamar Chase now has an AAV of $40.2 million. T. Higgins now has an AAV of $28.7. The Eagles, when they extended A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, Brown is only making $32 million AAV, and Devontae Smith is making $25. Now, clearly, we can agree or disagree on either of this. I'm pretty sure if we're comparing the money, it's got more to do with that than just comparing the player. Easily, Jamar Chase is the best, if not one of the two best wide receivers in football.
Yeah.
I don't think if you put 100 fans of different teams and ask them what receiver do you want to build your offensive around, they're going to pick Jamar Chase over A.J. Brown. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think we would disagree there.
No.
And I love A.J. So, I mean, A.J.'s easily one of the... If Jamar's number one, that's fine. Jett is number two. A.J.'s got the conversation for number three. I don't care what the numbers say.
Yep, that's true.
So, what's up, Dalton? Happy Monday to you too, my friend. Of course, Dalton, our friend over at the 302 Birds podcast for all your Philly
Dalton?
Sports culture needs.
Thank you, Dalton.
Yeah, Dalton loves the Howie Roseman background, Tyler. He loves every part of it.
He's always lurking in the back.
Yeah, he's calling Justin Simmons as we speak. That's why the phone's on his ear. And Anthony said, did Chase become a Triple Crown player with the help of Higgins? If not, then they really don't need Higgins. It could have found a cheaper option. That is a good... Now, I want to go there because, we're talking number twos, right?
Yep.
Call me biased all you want. I still think Devontae Smith is a better wide receiver than T. Higgins.
I do too. Better route runner.
If I had Jamar Chase on one side, I'd rather have Devontae Smith on the other.
Yeah, that's the next part of the question is, okay, Jamar Chase got paid. Cool. T. Higgins got a deal. Cool. Was T. Higgins actually worth the money that Cincinnati gave to him? Now, to another team, yeah, I could see him being worth that. But in terms of the Bengals, could they have still been impactful, like Anthony said, with bringing in another guy as a number two?
There's two ways to look at this, okay? First off, real quick, Dalton's got a few comments here that he threw in here. He said, Howie's definitely hard at work today. Yep, we're going to be getting into the newest Philadelphia Eagles signing in a few minutes here, Dalton. We got you. He was laughing at your lurking comment, and then he was agreeing with me when I said, I think Devontae Smith is better. Now, here's my thing. Me personally, I think T. Higgins may have screwed himself a little bit here. Because you are still, now don't get me wrong, now the second part of this will explain more of it. You are still now playing the understudy to Jamar Chase. I personally think if T. Higgins would have hit the market, which Cincinnati wouldn't let him, I think a team would have gave him a contract similar to the AAV of A.J. Brown, because there are teams out there. You're telling me the Patriots wouldn't have gave T. Higgins $32 million a year?
Oh, they would have.
Their number one wide receiver is Kendrick Bourne.
I think the Chargers would have too.
The Chargers are so desperate, they're going to reunite their 2019, 23, 2, whatever year it was, wide receiver core. They're going to reunite in and out.
That's called the hamstring squad.
Oh, good Lord. But you see, like, so there were teams that would have easily offered T. Higgins. I think even Washington may have done it. Maybe not 32, but something in the neighborhood. Because I think that's why Washington ultimately made the trade for Debo.
Yeah.
Because I think they really wanted T. Higgins, but the Bengals didn't even let it get to that point.
But now, and also, the Bengals have just, they gave T. Higgins, like, no options at all. Like, they were like, okay, you don't want to come to terms on a contract, franchise tag. You're stuck for a 1-year deal.
Again.
So at this point, they finally offer him something. I mean, he wants a multi-year deal with some guaranteed money. You got to take it. I don't think he really had the choice of, trying to wait, play another year under the tag, because who says they don't tag him again next year?
Yeah. And now Dalton does say he agrees with both of us, but he's definitely going back to your point where they could have spent some of this money elsewhere. Yeah, like
I think they should have, because
now
they're competing in a loaded AFC. Just their division alone is loaded. Let alone worrying about the rest of the conference. They're not going to be able to hang. It's just not going to happen. You have Joe Burrow, who'll probably throw for another 5,000. Great numbers. Probably get sacked like almost 50 times again. But then it's going to come back to the defense.
They'll be the first team in NFL history to score 100 points and lose 105 to 100. But no, because on paper, their skills position, it's pretty good. You got Burrow, who easily is a top 3 quarterback in football. Chase Brown was having a heck of a season as their RB1 when they finally started realizing he was their RB1 and not Zach Moss.
Zach Moss.
Yeah. There's a fantasy draft pick I want back. But then you look at their pass catchers. Gesicki, Chase, Higgins. But now, I want to go back to Anthony's comment earlier talking about T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, because you can make the case for both of these two with this. Does Jamar Chase have that Triple Crown season if T. Higgins isn't next to him? Does T. Higgins still draw some of the attention to that side of the field? And then you make the case T. Higgins probably got paid because he's playing opposite of Jamar Chase. Yeah. So now let me ask you this. If I'm picking one or the other, I know if I put them on a team by themselves, I'm sorry, I know who I'm picking and I know who's going to produce, and it's going to be Jamar Chase. Not that T. Higgins won't, but you could ask both sides of that question.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm going to lead on the side of optimism and say that he could have done it with a wide receiver that isn't a T. Higgins.
Mm-hmm. Not breaking news, by the way.
More breaking news.
So I hope Dalton is still in the chat watching. We've got Eagles news.
Uh-oh, let me check my phone.
Per Adam Schefter, 5-time All-Pro offensive tackle Lane Johnson has reworked his contract to add $8 million over the next 2 years and an additional $30 million in guarantees per his agent. The soon-to-be 35-year-old Johnson will now earn $48 million over the next 2 years, including $40 million guaranteed. So Big Lane is reworking his contract.
He's always on the phone, man. He never hangs up.
Lane is now under contract through the 2027 season. So we've got 3 more years of Lane.
That's awesome.
I'm fully expecting his replacement to be drafted in 2 years now.
Yep. They're gonna not yet, but they're definitely gonna try for the transition that they had with Kelsey to Jurgens.
Oh yeah. Well, it wouldn't matter because who's the offensive line coach?
Yeah.
Statling University's still here, baby. We're chilling. But so yeah, Lane Johnson gets an extra year added to his deal and is now under contract with the Eagles through 2027. But yeah, but no, let's backtrack to the Bengals for just another minute here. I really think that we knew Jamar was going to get paid after the season he just had. Yeah. But again, he was ready to sign for like $34 million a year last year. He was ready to do this. Mm-hmm. And the Bengals were like, we're going to wait. We're trying to get you around 30. Well, now you got to pay him 40 plus.
Yeah. When has it ever benefited any NFL organization to wait? Unless if it's in regards to, like Cooper Kupp getting released finally. And so that's probably the only situation if you're waiting for a guy to get released. But other than that, if you're waiting to pay somebody, good luck. That's never going to work.
Yeah. Like, I don't understand where these were, but this is what the Bengals have always done. They're a cheap organization that neglects their roster until it's time to actually do something.
Yep.
But, look, they both got paid. It is what it is. I still think that I agree with you. I think the Bengals could have easily paid Chase, and then maybe you could have added another wide receiver. It's not the strongest wide receiver class in the draft. It's not the strongest. It's got some players in it, but it's not deep like edge rushers and interior defensive linemen. Like, you're not getting a guy in the 5th and the 4th round that could play.
Yeah.
But no, the Bengals, they backed themselves into a corner, and now they've committed $70 million to 2 players.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, when it comes to them and Burrow, because I'm sorry, I didn't hear about and honestly, here's where I'll defend the Bengals a little bit. Burrow's going on live TV, saying that, Philly gets to pay all their weapons. Well, hey, Joe, why don't you – they're probably thinking, well, Joe, why don't you help us out?
Mm-hmm.
Mister, I want to get back to the Super Bowl. Why don't you help us out a little bit?
Well, you want to get back to the Super Bowl? There's something called not being selfish.
Well, 2 out of these 3 are going to have to rework their deals almost every single year.
Mm-hmm.
And that could cause a rift between them, too. Because, like I said, on paper, if Aaron Rodgers were to go to the Steelers are at least a 12-win team, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're a much better run organization.
I mean, they won 10 games with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson last year. The Ravens are still the Ravens last time I checked.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're sitting there, how do you stop Lamar Jackson next year? You have to beat him in another shootout?
Basically.
Because, like I said, they're skill position players. It doesn't get much better than Chase Brown, Mike Gesicki, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. And with Joey B. It doesn't get much better than that. But it's not going to be easy when you can't stop anybody either. So, I don't know. I do not know. They did what they had to do, but this should have been done a year ago.
Yeah, should have been done last year. They should have paid Jamar before CeeDee Lamb got paid.
Well, to be fair, yes, but Higgins should have got paid 2 years ago.
Yeah, he should have.
Because you really could have got ahead of this then.
That's the thing. They still didn't know if they needed to keep T. Higgins. They didn't know if they wanted him around long term.
Well, we saw what happened. We see what happens now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like we said, now it is what it is. They got their guys are paid, and now they got to go out and do their thing with it. So, real quickly, Anthony says, I see what Cincy's doing with Chase and Higgins, but the Seahawks with Sam Darnold's contract is wild. They apparently can get out of that after 1 year.
Very smart.
Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me go find it real quick if I can. All right, here it is right here. Seahawks deal with Sam Darnold is reported at 3 years, $100.5 million. Is essentially a 1 year, $37.5 million contract. If they want to, Seattle can move on after the 2025 season with no dead money as long as Darnold is healthy and passes a physical.
Really?
The only guarantee Darnold has beyond this season is a $17.5 million injury guarantee, which becomes fully guaranteed the week after the Super Bowl.
So you're saying that next year, after the season ends, Sam Darnold's going to stub his toe and be injured?
I'm saying that if he stinks and he's fully healthy, then they can get rid of him.
If he stinks and stubs his toe, though,
it's over.
It's a different scenario there.
It's over. Anthony said, we all know Mike Tomlin won't put up with Rodgers.
Tomlin might not get too much of a choice.
He may not get much of a say, Anthony.
Yeah, I think he's past that point with that team. He's got to take a lot of outside advice now.
They got to take a lot of advice in general, because it's not the prettiest right now in Steelerland quarterback wise.
Nope.
But all right, so Tyler, final thoughts. Bengals. Just give me your quick final thought about it.
Joe Burrow's still going to get sacked a lot. He'll throw for 5,000 yards. Be one of the top QBs in the league. And their defense is going to give up 40 points a game.
That's generous. So, want to move on to some birds?
Oh, yeah, we got breaking news.
Well, we already broke the news.
The earlier breaking news.
So, I want to read this tweet real quick from Field Yates. He's commenting on the Lane Johnson thing. And he said, no team has been more aggressive in paying star players early than the Eagles. Like any move, it comes with risk. They don't all work out. Hence, Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
But as clear as early paydays for stars have so many benefits, including this reality. Rewarding players early results in goodwill between the team and the player. Philly paid Lane Johnson immediately after he became eligible, and the partnership has thrived for over a decade. There's no argument there.
Mm-hmm.
When the early deals start to move down the totem pole, or a player outperforms his remaining deal, like Lane or Saquon, take notes, Hassan Reddick. The goodwill goes a long way in making deals and making deal corrections easier to execute. It feels very rare for Philly to deal with what can be an extremely uncomfortable spot, a contract dispute with a star.
Yeah.
And this is how the Eagles get away with it. They avoid it because they pay their guys when they know it's time. Now, we can jump right into the Eagles segment with this because, I've had to hear people for a week, oh my God, we lost Reggie White and prime Lawrence Taylor this week.
I keep getting the question, what's going on with the Eagles losing all these defensive players? My answer is the same. I'm like, who did we lose? We still got all the young guys. We traded CJ. We got some draft compensation for him. His spot will be replaced. Darius Slay is getting old. He had a great year last year, yes. Still getting old, though.
Exactly. But, all right, Tyler, all right, took care of that. All right, took care of it. But anyway, let's look at a few things here, okay? Did you see the post I put on Facebook the other day? The big old paragraph about Isaiah Rodgers and Mekhi Becton?
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain to everybody how this works. Howie Roseman literally warned us that this is the type of offseason it was going to be. They were going to have to do things a little differently. Because let's take a trip back here. And Dalton, I hope you're still watching. I think you're really going to enjoy this. Let's take a trip down memory lane.
No pun intended.
Yeah, literally. To the 2018 season, right? You remember when we won that first Super Bowl?
I don't want to go back to there.
Oh, no, man. It was fun. Won the Super Bowl. And guess what happened? They paid everyone.
And what happened? We sucked.
We sucked for 3 years. Look, don't get me wrong. I will never take away from that team. They ended the curse. But look what happened. Alshon Jeffrey, big contract, never was healthy again.
Yep.
Timmy Jernigan.
Oh, Timmy Jernigan.
Hey, he was only 24 years old, though, Tyler. He should have got an extension. And then he herniated that disc in his back, and he was never the same player.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles paid too many players on that team, and it cost them. It actually really cost them a lot for years in terms of money and younger players. Now, the Eagles also weren't drafting well back then either.
Yeah.
Now, this year. Go ahead.
This is probably better to wait for you to finish first. So you continue.
Okay. Now, of all we're talking about with the Bengals and all this stuff, I hope I can get some Eagle fans that still don't understand this to listen to me. Milton Williams is making $26 million a year this year for the New England Patriots. Milton Williams got paid that money from playing next to Jalen Carter. But the problem is now the Patriots are paying Milton Williams to be Jalen Carter. And I hate to break it to you, that's not going to happen.
Yep.
And now, what I'm about to talk about here, I want WIP 97.5 The Fanatic to answer me this question. If someone sees this, invite me on. I want answers. Who do you guys think Josh Sweat is? See, all right, it's okay to remember the Josh Sweat that gave you 2 sacks in the Super Bowl. That's fine. I remember the Josh Sweat of 2023 who didn't have a sack for about 3 months. I remember the Josh Sweat from the Steelers game.
Sam, do you want me to answer you who Josh Sweat is?
Go right ahead, because it ain't someone who's worth $41 million guaranteed.
In his first year starting with the team, he had 4 sacks in 2019. The second year, followed up with 6 sacks. 2021 season followed up with 7.5 sacks. 2022, the year we went to the Super Bowl, 11 sacks. He was playing on one of the best. That was the unit that set that Eagles record for sacks. So, granted, you should have a big year. Then you go to 2023. A lot of guys had down years, but he had 6.5 sacks. Last year, he only had 8. It's not like he hit double digit sacks.
No,
Yeah, granted, played great in the Super Bowl. Cool.
he
It's a
did.
game. It's the biggest game, but it's a game.
Josh Sweat is a good player. Josh Sweat is an inconsistent player.
Now, I think this segues perfectly to what I wanted to say.
Go
All
ahead.
Howie Roseman's been doing this offseason, and even before then, stockpiling draft picks for future talent. We have a crap ton of draft picks this year, even more next year.
We have 20
Team-
over the next 2 drafts.
This team is going to continue to get young, and guess what? Where did we find Milton Williams? Wasn't he a third rounder? Where do we find Josh Sweat? Again, fourth round. He was fourth round, fourth rounder. Looks like we have a lot of picks around those rounds, don't we? It's about
Not to mention, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but not to mention, you're going to have 4 compensatory draft picks next year. You're going to get a third rounder for Milton Williams. You're going to get a fourth rounder for Josh Sweat. You are going to get a fifth rounder for Mekhi Becton. And you're going to get a sixth rounder for Isaiah Rodgers.
Yeah. And it's the way that they've built this team to be able to mold these young stars and make them who they are. Do you think I'm worried that we need to bring in a couple of guys to fill some roles on the depth chart? We brought in, I'm going to use this example again, Zach Bond, who never started a game in his career from the Saints. People thought we were bringing him in to be, third string linebacker, special teams guy. Turns out to be one of the best middle linebackers in football.
Yeah.
And it's thanks to Vic Fangio. As long
And
as
he
Vic
got
Fangio,
rewarded for that.
he did. And as long as Vic Fangio is leading that defensive unit, I don't have any concerns about who they draft and develop and who they sign and develop.
Exactly. And let me just ask you this real quick, okay? We're talking about Vic Fangio, and we know there's new changes on the offensive side of the ball with Patullo, Parks Frazier's coming over. But that's fine. Let me just ask you this, okay? Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. Jalen Hurts still on this football team?
Yep.
Saquon Barkley still on this football team?
Yep.
A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith,
Yep.
Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, who, by the way, needs to get paid.
Yep.
Now let's go to the other side of the football. Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, who some Eagle fans still don't know what his role on the team is. Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. As much as some people hate it, Reed Blankenship. This team is still loaded with talent. Like, what top-tier player did we lose?
I don't know.
We lost a lot of good role players.
People like to clamor on to, let's say CJ Gardner Johnson. They like to cling on to him as the heartbeat of the defense. Now, granted, he does bring some excitement to the locker room, but that's a role that can be filled by other people. I think people they just get stuck on his interceptions, and they look at that and they think that this guy is just the big focal piece of this defense.
I'm going to stop you real quick. No. All they can think about is what happened after 2022. That's what they're stuck on. They lost DJ in 2022, and we were the worst defense in football. Okay, but wait a minute. Hold on. Let me ask you this one. All right, so CJ left, right? Worst defense in football. I believe Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, and Darius Slay and all them were on that team still. Also, when CJ left, we were being coached by Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. Do you think Vic Fangio went into Howie Roseman's office and said, "Oh yeah, just trade him. I don't need him"? He said, "No, we can, but we got to figure out a way to replace him." And honestly, I think personally still, and I could be totally wrong on this, I know CJ came out and said it was because the young guys had to get paid. And people just keep saying, "Oh, well, next year we're only making $8 million." Okay, well, there's guys that need to get paid this year. Just hold on to this, okay? There could have been a chance that the Eagles looked at that Twitter stuff between him and Darius Slay and said, "Okay, you know what? You're both getting on our nerves, so guess what we're going to do? You sign where you please, and we're done." They could have been getting sick and tired of this because as great as a player he is, his mouth gets him in trouble. And someone made a great point with that. Remember a couple weeks ago, they're like, "Oh, well, look what happened to our defense when he got ejected against Washington." Exactly my point right there. He got ejected.
Yeah.
But I don't want this to come on as bashing CJ. I love CJ. I was ecstatic when they brought him back. And I was angry when I woke up that day when they traded him. But all I'm trying to tell the Eagles fans is they're not going to sign Sean Davis or whoever the hell they signed to replace him this time. They're not going to have to make a Kevin Byard trade in the middle of the season. They are going to find a long-term commitment here. And also, Dennis is going to love me, I still think Sidney Brown can play in this league.
Yeah. And you're forgetting another third-round pick. And the injury took him out a couple years ago. He was recovering, playing special teams last year. Time to see what he has.
Yeah, so for all those people like, "Oh, well, he couldn't outplay Tristan McCullum." The guy couldn't practice till like week 7. The guy's trying. ACLs are almost 2-year injuries. You get that first year to get yourself physically right. Then you can start playing to your full strength again. I expect big things out of Sidney Brown. He has to fix this. He needs to work on his tackling a little bit because he can hit you, but you gotta learn when to hit someone and when to tackle someone. They're two totally different things.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, CJ's had that issue too.
Yep.
And for them, I get taking the football away. We are going to take the football away just fine.
Yeah.
There are playmakers at every level of this defense. So let me tell you where some of these deals went, why these guys aren't here. Real quickly, though. What's up, Burnsy?
What's up, Burnsy?
What's up? I'm glad to see Burnsy in the chat. Here's what cost them. They did not think Isaiah Rodgers was going to get $7.5 million a year. I think they really want to bring back Mekhi Becton, but he got them another compensatory pick, so that's why they said no. Also, no offense to Mekhi, I wish him nothing but the best in LA. I hope he balls out. But you don't have much NFL success outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I think I said this in that Facebook post. This is the reason the Eagles didn't do this. You saw what Milton Williams got paid. He's making $26 million a year. Jalen Carter may get extended next year. Because of his market.
And they'd be smart to extend him because if you wait until you have to, you're going to fall into the Bengals trap.
And Howie Roseman doesn't fall into that trap.
He doesn't. He knows better.
Also, did we see what happened this morning with the Texans?
No, which move was that?
With Derek Stingley?
Oh, yeah, Stingley. He reset the corner market again.
So now corners make $30 million.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Oh, we kind of just drafted two of them.
Yeah. I'm thinking that we're going to have to pay two of those guys, too.
Yeah. That's a non-negotiable.
Not to mention, this upcoming year, Cam Jurgens is entering the final year of his rookie deal. You know how he pays his linemen.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Davis is entering technically the final year of his rookie deal, but he has the fifth-year option. But the Eagles may choose to extend him instead to lower the cap hits and all that. It may be better just to extend him, which they probably will. But they're going to think of Jalen Carter earlier rather than later. Same thing a couple of years from now with Quinyon. If Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean get better every year, then they're going to reset the market together.
Yeah.
And as much as I know Dennis doesn't want to hear it, Reed Blankenship is only under contract for next year. And I'm sorry, I'm not in the business of getting rid of two 25-year-old safeties that take the football away.
No. Reed's earned the new contract with the Eagles. Yeah. I hope they can afford it.
Reed has gotten better every year he's been on the Eagles. Every year he's been in the league, Reed Blankenship has gotten better. So they are making the right decision. I understand getting rid of TJ Hurts, but do you really think they're not going to find a way to figure that out? A safety in the first two rounds is realistic right now.
It is.
There's also still names on the trade market. There's also names on the free agent market still. Justin Simmons is still out there, and he's a big Fangio guy. He said he would love to come here and reunite with Vic. And guess what? The longer he sticks, just like last year, the more that value goes down.
Yep.
So they've done exactly what I've expected. They've taken care of some of their own guys. They've signed some guys to cheap deals, and they're working with it. Now, would we like to talk about the players that they've brought in?
Yeah. Because a lot of these guys have been signed to deals since last week's show.
All right, so let's start at the top. They added another quarterback. Got Dorian Thompson-Robinson in that trade for Kenny Pickett.
Yep.
So that's your third string. I'm cool with that. He started some games in the NFL. They brought back Ben Van Sumeren. And I found it funny that they labeled him as a fullback.
Okay.
We're about to make Van Sumeren the next Kyle Juszczyk, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Hope so. I wanted to sign Kyle Juszczyk for about 2 weeks.
Until you saw Van Sumeren come back and you were like, okay,
fine
with that.
A.J. Dillon being brought in to be, I guess, the RB2, RB3?
RB2.
A whole bunch of quads in that backfield.
Oh, yeah.
Look, I've liked A.J. Dillon ever since he came out of freaking Boston College. Dude's a big physical runner. And he brings you something in the pass game, too.
He does.
Now, he was out all last year with that neck injury, but he said he's good to go. But he's still only 26, 27 years old. None of the guys they really signed are old. Like, so
yeah,
I love
the old guys they're bringing in are 26, 27-year-olds.
Exactly. Like, and now, the one telling thing I will say is bringing in two tight ends in Harrison Bryant and Kylan Granson. That I find a little bit, that's telling me something.
Yeah. They're fully prepared. You think they're going to use Dallas Goedert as a draft day trade?
I think Dallas Goedert has seen his last days in Philadelphia, in my opinion.
I think he has too. Hey, I love him.
Unfortunately.
He's been great when he's healthy. He's amazing. But yeah, the Eagles, they're not afraid to move on from their tight ends. Like when it's time, it's time.
Yeah, and this is lining up very well. It's a heavy tight end draft class. Goddard is entering the final year of his deal. He's clearly probably looking for more guaranteed money. He's he's getting up there in age. He's going to be a 30-year-old tight end with a very big injury history. So,
oh, the Eagles are making the move for Tyler Warren. It's happening.
Okay, relax. Okay. As much as I would love that, it's not going to happen. But yeah, Harrison Bryant, they signed him last week. He's 26 years old, more of a block first tight end. Granson's more of the pass catching tight end, and they still have Grant Calcaterra under contract. So I'm assuming they're going to draft one. Calcaterra will be here, and then we'll have a battle between Bryant and Granson for the tight end 3 position. I may give the edge to Harrison Bryant because he's better of a blocker.
Yeah. And the Eagles love using their extra tight ends for blocking on run decisions.
Harrison Bryant is basically Jack Stoll. That's his role.
Yeah.
Bernsey said the Eagles have a lot of players that it's hard to pronounce their names. DJ, GJ, Slay, Sweat, Williams, were a lot easier. But no, I'm going to get back to that in a second, too, regarding who they've lost and why they lost them. Now, moving down the list, we know they got Kenyon Green and the CJ trade. Tyler, do you have any thoughts on that?
I actually like it because I think Kenyon Green, he's going to come in and be direct competition with Tyler Steen for that right guard spot. I think there was definitely – it wasn't just a random add into the trade. It was definitely by design. They wanted to bring him in.
Man, why is that?
Because they knew they weren't getting Mekhi back.
Yes, but there's another reason.
What's the other reason?
Why do we trust in this trade?
Stoutland,
you.
A guy might have not looked too hot with the Houston Texans, but you throw him in Stoutland University for a few weeks, and guarantee he's going to live up to the hype. Because it wasn't he a former first rounder.
He was the 15th overall pick just back in 2022.
Yeah, I'm going to take my chances with Stoutland getting his hands on him.
Also, hold on. I think it will help instead of playing with Dak Mason and Titus Howard. I think it'll be a bigger of an upgrade playing with Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, and a future first ballot Hall of Famer in Lane Johnson.
Yeah. He's in good hands. I'm just going to go out and say I think he's going to be the starting right guard. And it sucks, I know, because like Tyler Steen, I feel could be it as well. But
why does everybody disrespect Tyler Steen?
No, I'm not trying to, because like I know what Steen's capable of. The times he had to come in when Beckham was out, he was great. I know he can play.
The title game?
Yeah, like I know he can play, but I don't know, man. This kid's big.
Also, I think Green necessarily only plays right guard.
Yeah.
No, he's a left guard. He's going to make the transition to right guard.
Was he a left guard?
Yes, he played because Shaq Mason was their right guard.
Oh, okay.
But sorry, buddy, left guard is taken here.
Yeah. But hey, if he had a left tackle in Mekhi Becton.
Also, because in my opinion, I don't know if you agree with me, I viewed Tyler Steen as the offensive version to the offensive line as Isaiah Rodgers.
Yeah, honestly. Because
if Slay went down, you put Rodgers in. If Mitchell against the Rams went down, insert Rodgers. Well,
You know what
Becton
he
got
is?
banged up. Here came Steen. Jurgens could barely walk with his back injury. Dickerson had to move over. Then Dickerson got hurt. Here comes Steen.
He's our sixth man.
And Fred Johnston was your seventh man because you swing tackle.
Yep.
Who I'd like to see them bring back still.
And honestly, yeah, like I like the versatility in Steen as that first man off the bench because there's always going to come a time where an offensive lineman is going to get banged up. So it's great to have a guy like Tyler Steen. All right, throw him in real quick. But yeah, no disrespect to Steen at all, but I think the kid Kenyon Green has a lot of upside that he wasn't going to be able to find in Houston. And yeah, get him with Jeff Stoutland. I think you might have another Pro Bowler right there.
I think Steen could be a Pro Bowler too.
Yeah.
I think Tyler Steen doesn't get enough credit for how, and he was a guy that Stoutland loved. That's why they took him, because Stoutland loved him.
Who knows? You know what? Maybe Steen's just buying his time. Maybe Steen's the replacement for Lane. He just has to wait like 6 years.
His arms aren't long enough to play tackle. They said that when he was taken out of Bama. He's going to transition to guard because his arms aren't long enough.
Gotcha.
I mean, hell, we really wanted to. We just could have re-signed Mackay and then moved Mackay back out there. I would have trusted Mackay playing right tackle with Stoutland.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, Tyler Steen's only has, 4 career starts, and they're 4-0, and they average, 35 points per game when he's out there. I don't know how much that has to do with Tyler Steen, but...
He doesn't negatively impact them.
You're telling me that, and I'm talking about Steen or Kenyon Green. You're telling me for either of these two, playing between Lane Johnson and Cam Jurgens is going to make them worse?
No. The offensive line's fine. I'm not worried about it at all.
Neither am I. You made the case that maybe they draft another interior guy. Even though I would still like to see Trevor Keegan too.
Yeah.
Don't forget about the big Keister.
If he's ready.
Fair enough. Bernsey was just commenting, bringing up the Lane Johnson thing. Yep, Bernsey, we caught that earlier on the show. We are aware that our right tackle just... And it's good because he's here for the next 3 seasons. It makes you feel good that you don't got to worry about too much with that till 3 years down the road.
Yep.
All right, but now let's keep moving down here. Defensive line, nothing much there in terms of interior. Still have Jalen Carter, still have Jordan Davis, Moro Ojamo, Bryce Huff's gone.
Yeah. Well, was he ever here?
He was here for a cup of coffee. Now, linebackers, Nakobe Dean, Zach Vaughn. Do you see somebody come in to fill that Oren Burks role? Do you think they add another guy just to have out there in case Dean isn't ready for the start of the season? Because that was a really rough knee injury he had.
It was. I think they will. Because you need to have some kind of quality backup just because of his injury history. You have to be prepared for that.
Yeah. And, I would love to trust Jeremiah Trotter, and I think they do. I think they like Trotter a lot. But, Vic eventually said last year that after Dean got hurt, oh, hey, they're going to both get snapped, and then I saw Oren Burks, and that was it. Now, don't get me wrong. Burks played really well. That's why it went that way. I mean, I have a free agent currently a free agent that an old friend of ours.
Who's that?
Does the name Kaiser White interest you at all?
I mean, yeah, bringing him in. He's not going to be expected to, carry the weight of the world on his shoulders.
No.
He'd have a more limited role. And I mean, I trust Vic Fangio to get whatever. He's one of those defensive coordinators where he's not going to ask you to dominate the world. He's gonna figure out what you're good at, what your specific skill set is, and he's gonna maximize that.
I agree. But all right, let's talk about the two edge rusher moves. One happened last week, one happened right before this show. Joshua Uche, Azeez Ojulari, both coming over to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Uche, of course, hasn't had the greatest couple of years in the NFL. He had a very good 2022-2023 season in New England where he had 11 and a half sacks. And Ojulari is another one. He had 8 sacks his rookie year, 2.5. Then he had 5.5 the next year, 2.5 the next year, 6 this past year. Has only played 17 games his rookie year. Has had a couple banged up injuries. He's been limited to 11 games each of the last 2 years. They are looking like they are going to be your rotational edge rushers. How the roster sits right now. What are our thoughts on Uche and Ojulari? And can we please sign an edge rusher with a name I can pronounce?
I mean, you pronounced them great, but they're good signings. You know, it's the added depth that they needed to bring in the rotational guys. You know, we're not signing rotational guys that get 10 plus sacks a year. Those are starters.
No.
So, the the talent is there. If they're able to maximize it more in Philadelphia, they probably will. They're definitely primed in a good position to do that. But
Yeah.
yeah, defense is going to be fine.
Yeah, I'm not worried about any of it. But in terms of Uche, I mean, last year he had 2 sacks in 7 games with the Patriots. He was traded to the Chiefs. He was benched. I don't think he ever fit the system in Kansas City with the way Spags likes to run it. I don't think it was a fit there at all. It's a 1-year deal. I think he's got I think he literally has a $950,000 cap hit. He's only making like $1.4 million. Like he's like making like $1.2 million on this deal with the Eagles. And this Howie Roseman, this sick bastard, added 4 void years to this deal. He's a sick SOB. Howie's a sick man.
How do you add 4 void years to a 1-year deal?
Because Howie's a sick man.
He is. He's insane.
Howie's a
I mean, just look at him.
Now, now when it comes to Ojulari, I actually had Ojulari coming to the Eagles this offseason in general because 24-year-old pass rusher, it's a 1-year deal worth up to $4 million. That usually kind of screams you're going to make the team.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Elliot Shorr-Parks just tweeted out a minute ago that here's how he looks at the Eagles' edge rushers. Locked for the roster. Ojulari, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, and a rookie. And on the bubble, he has Uche and Bryce Huff. No, you actually have to make a third category off the team, Bryce Huff.
He's gone, dude. There's no shot.
Oh, yeah.
He has no chance.
Today showed you that because after Uche's not a household name. He's not the greatest option, but you're sitting there like, okay, Uche's here, and then you have Bryce Huff. Maybe that's your 4. Right now, it's your top 4 guys. But when you bring in Ojulari today, which is a big signing, I don't care what the contract is or the 1 year, $4 million. I don't care about that. Ojulari is a great fit for a rotational edge rusher. And for all the people like, oh, they didn't get Myles Garrett, they didn't get a big time player. They are confident in what they have. Nolan Smith is going to get better than what he was this year, and he was pretty damn good this year.
Mm-hmm.
Jalix Hunt is ahead of schedule in his development. He should not have been asked to play that much last year. And look, he was playing meaningful snaps in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's going to be your Josh Sweat for all the people who want to clamor over Josh Sweat. He's that same guy. Drafted him late in the later rounds. Develop him. First year, already got a couple of chances, and he shined. He showed what he has to offer.
Yeah, so their edge rusher rotation, we're sitting here, we're chilling. I love the Ojulari move. I think he adds that third guy off the bench role. They're going to draft one too, so.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, Bernsey. I'm going to disagree with you here. Bernsey, we're usually on the same page every week, but I'm going to disagree with you here. First of all, the defense will be just fine. Jordan Davis has a specific role to this team. Tyler, you know it. I know it. Would you like to clarify it?
Here's the problem when people bring up Jordan Davis. They look at Jordan Davis like we see Jalen Carter. They try to think that he's a guy who's gonna get you double-digit sacks in a year. He's not your Aaron Donald, Jalen Carter kind of guy. What he is a dominant force in the middle of your defensive line. And if you go and look at his run defense numbers, he's tops of the league. He's a run stopper. That's why they designed the defense the way that they did. They had Milton Williams on the field with Jalen Carter on heavy passing downs. When they knew that they needed to stop the run, that's when you would see more of Jordan Davis. And not to mention, Jordan Davis still managed to get, one or two sacks throughout the year in postseason.
He had one in the NFC title game and one in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. And then he had one in regular season, so a total of 3 on the year.
Jordan Davis is a modern day version, because you can't be this big anymore. He's a modern day version of Vince Wilfork.
Yes, but a more athletic Vince Wilfork.
Oh God, yeah. Oh well,
he can move.
Look, Vince, you could have sold real estate on Vince Wilfork. He's a large man. There were some real estate signs on him. That's a big boy. No, Bernsey, because every time we pick up Giants players, they turn out to be good for us.
Yeah, see, Giants players, they're almost like Jets players. You know, we should just start calling them MetLife players. If they play in MetLife, they're the same category. As soon as you get them out of there, off of that team, they can be managed and they can be good players. They just have to get out of MetLife. That's all. It's simple. Simple concept. Because Bernsey, are you telling me Saquon Barkley's crap? Who else we rescued? A couple years ago, what was it, Bradbury? Rescued him.
Yeah.
All the Giants players said he was crap. Helped us get to that 2022 Super Bowl.
Real quickly, here's a tweet that I saved from Anthony DeBona. He's one of my Eagles guys on Twitter who I love to follow his coverage. He said, the Eagles are adding 2 edge rushers and 2 tight ends before we've even reached the draft. Tells us everything we need to know about the futures of Bryce Huff and Dallas Goedert.
Yeah. They're gone.
Now, we do have one more addition to the team that we have to talk about. This is a little interesting to me. It's the acquisition of, ironically, former Giants corner, Adoree Jackson. What are your thoughts there? Because this, to me, is the only move that is screaming he could be really big competition for what he's being brought to do.
So, here's my take on Adoree Jackson. He's a veteran guy that they're bringing in to try to get. I think their goal is for him to get the best out of Eli Ricks and oh gosh,
Wait.
I'm blanking.
Oh. What are you talking about?
The young Keely Ringo. Him.
Oh, you better.
Those 2. Because I think they like what they have in those 2, but you got to have some veterans in the locker room. I don't think Adoree Jackson's going to be a starter.
Okay. Now, personally, I'm going to disagree with you. The number one Keely Ringo fan is going to disagree with you.
Better watch
And
yourself.
I think Adoree Jackson has a better chance at starting than any of these other guys they brought in.
Really?
Here's some numbers for you. Last year with the Giants, Adoree Jackson allowed a career-low 48.6 completion rate in coverage last year. He brings both inside and outside versatility, which hopefully that means I will not be watching Avonte Maddox on another one-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in limited snaps last year, he had 276 coverage snaps, 18 receptions on 33 targets, 206 yards, allowed 2 touchdowns, 5 pass breakups, a 64.5 PFF coverage grade, and an 85.8 PFF run defense grade. So now let's go to PFF real quick. So Adoree Jackson's overall grade. So here's Adoree Jackson's numbers for PFF. And I know I'm not a PFF guy. Neither are you, really. But there's something here. Here's Adoree Jackson last year. Overall grade was 69. Run defense grade, like I said, 85.8. And his coverage grade was 64.5. Now that's it. Compared to this player, whose PFF grade was 67.6, he had a 60.2 run defense grade per PFF and a 68.9 coverage grade. Do you know whose numbers on PFF those are?
Who?
Those are Darius Slade.
Really?
I think Adoree Jackson actually has a really good chance of being the number 2 corner. And this comes from a guy who loves Keely Ringo. Because for some reason, none of you think Keely Ringo can play.
Says who?
Hey, none of you thought he should be playing out there.
I know those words have never come out of my mouth.
You ain't the biggest Keely Ringo guy. I don't make me go back to the other show. Don't make me go back.
I go back because I want to see.
I think the biggest problem with Keely Ringo was people forget that only being a 4th round pick in 2023, he's still only 22 years old. The kid's young. Yeah, and ironically, the only 2 bright spots, not named Jalen Carter, on that horseshit 2023 team led by Sean Desai and Matt Patricia were Keely Ringo and Sidney Brown. So that's my point. Now let's get them both out there with a real defensive coaching staff.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good thing. That's why I like that they did bring in Adoree Jackson, because the competition's going to be on for who's going to start outside with Quinion.
Yeah. But I do like their philosophy. They're going with a bunch of one-year deals. I think a lot of these guys will make the team, clearly. Like, I think A.J. Dillon's going to make the team unless they draft a running back. I think Harrison Bryant, the tight end, is going to make the team. I'm not too sure about Kylan Granson. I think if they draft a tight end, he may beat him out. Offensive lineman, nobody there that's not going to make the team. Edge rushers, Uche may still be a question mark for me. And it's because of them getting... Well, it's because of bringing in Ojulari today. Because Ojulari is a big-time get today. And I think Adoree Jackson makes the team, too. I think Adoree Jackson could possibly be like your Isaiah Rodgers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, playing him inside, playing him outside. I think Adoree Jackson is going to be on this team. And another name not to forget when you're talking about the corners, Eli Ricks, who they rostered all last year and never waived him, never risked him on the practice squad. They like Eli Ricks, who also played well toward the end of 2023 when he was asked to.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tyler, I think when it comes to the Eagles, we'll wrap up this Eagles segment here. Where do we think? What's that?
They're fine. That's our big grand conclusion, is that the Eagles are fine.
All the top tier players are still here.
Exactly.
You're still going to have one of the best offenses in football next year. Your defense, Jalen Carter, Zach Bourne, Keely Ringo, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship, we're good.
Oh, man, we might only be a top 5 defense, man. It's just going to be a shame. It's going to suck.
Could you see them bringing in some safety help?
Yes.
Before the draft?
Now, I don't know if it'll be very telling between if they go with, like, you know, Justin Simmons, if they bring him in before the draft, then we kind of got to wait to see, based off of the quality of the safety that they bring in, do we think they're going to try and go high in the draft for one?
Well, let's look at the options we have in free agency right now. There's 3 names. There is one guy who's a free agent who's older, one guy who's a free agent that's younger, and one guy who's a free agent that was released. So the first one, of course, is Justin Simmons. Now, last year he played with the Falcons, 62 total tackles, 2 interceptions. Apparently, last year's free agency, it came down to him and C.J. Gardner-Johnson for the Eagles. Fangio apparently preferred Simmons, but Simmons wouldn't drop his asking price. And the Eagles then pivoted to CJ. So now, if we're looking at younger players, another name that we could look at is Julian Blackmon, who was just recently with the Colts. Blackmon's coming off a year, 16 games, 86 total tackles, had a half a sack, and had 3 interceptions. So, and the year before that, he had 88 total tackles and 4 interceptions. So, and he's only 26. He easily could be a 1-year deal. He could fit right in with the young safeties. Now, the third name I have is a guy who was just released, and that would be former Ravens and Saints safety Marcus Williams. Now, Williams had a rough year. He only had 33 total tackles. He only played 11 games, and he was basically benched toward the end of the year. Not his best year. But just before that, the year prior, he only played 11 games, but he had 55 tackles. He had 1 interception. He was playing at a high level the first and then 2 out of his 3 years in Baltimore. He's only 28 years old. If you had to pick out of those 3, who would you look at?
If it comes down to who Vic prefers, I'd rather get Simmons. I think that could also be beneficial. You know, they bring in Simmons. That doesn't put a whole lot of pressure on Sidney Brown, but hopefully we still get to see some more of Sidney Brown. But Blackmon interests me a lot as well, because I could easily see him being a guy that they would bring in to directly compete with Sidney Brown.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a track record of some success in this league, but with Simmons, I almost feel like you're going to get some of the playmaking that you lost in CJ.
Yeah.
Now, Blackmon fits the age range of, 26 years old, could turn to a long-term deal, could be a 1-year thing, whatever. But Simmons, 1-year deal, he provides some of that playmaking. He also could bring some of that veteran leadership you lose in Darius Slay.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I know Eagles fans are upset also about losing Darius Slay, but here's the thing. The Eagles probably offered him a 1-year deal worth around $5 or $6 million with incentives. They were never matching the $10 million fully. Yeah, 10 years. I got Darius Slay who's 45. But they weren't going to match giving Slay $10 million fully guaranteed for next year. It wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So I would prefer Simmons but they would have to draft another one for me to be okay with that. Blackman, I'm intrigued by Julian Blackman. Just like you, I think it could possibly be Simmons, but Blackman intrigues me. Marcus Williams, I could see Vic easily resurrecting his career, but he'd be the third on the totem pole for me. But in my order, I would go Simmons 1, Blackman 2, Williams 3. Another name to throw out there would be Rayshon Jenkins, who was just released by the Seahawks, but he's also 32. He's a little right around the same age as Simmons. Also not really the playmaker, but another name to throw out there. Who are we kidding? Malachi Starks is going to be a damn Eagle, and he's a damn Georgia Bulldog. So, but no. I think they'll add a safety at some point. They're definitely going to draft. If they don't sign one by the draft, they're drafting one.
Yeah.
So, but all right. Any other words on the Eagles segment? Burnsy said maybe the players' union should do something about QBs getting $60 million a year when some of the other positions can barely get 10. That's ownership problems. Burnsy.
Yeah. Because honestly, the way the players' union will look at it is, let's just get everyone paid.
Yeah.
They're getting 60, all right, up the other ones.
Let's just go through it here. You're telling me that Kareem Hunt or like Isaiah Pacheco should make as much money almost as Patrick Mahomes?
No.
That's not how that works.
I don't think they should ever make nearly as much as them, but I do get what he's trying to say. Some of these other positions like are really lowballed.
Oh, yeah. Well, last year you saw running backs, how important they became because of what Saquon Barkley did.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, Saquon, you saw what Aaron Jones did for the Vikings. Josh Jacobs, the impact he had with the Packers.
Speaking of the Vikings, how about the trade they made the other night? Getting Jordan Mason from Stanford. I don't know what San Fran's doing.
No idea.
We're going to trade the young running backs, but keep the off-injured 30-year-old running back.
Yep.
Okay.
And I still got the young kid Garendo as well. So.
And they have that guy, Patrick Taylor, right? Don't they have another one?
I think so, yeah.
Dude.
It just seems, whoever they throw in there just seems to be good.
And they're going to probably draft Cam Scatteraboo, so.
They probably will.
CMC teaches the new CMC. I'm telling you, man. But Burnsy says you get paid what your position is worth these days. Given how safeties seem to perform now, no team wants more than a 1-year deal at a time. Yeah, well, that Burnsy, or you just got to find the right organization. Look at the Eagles. You play well, you get paid, no matter what your position is.
Yeah.
They didn't trade CJ because they wouldn't have wanted to give him another deal. They traded CJ because they got more other guys they got to fill. They got a lot of guys they got to pay coming up soon. So we're going to have to wait and see how all that turns out.
But it'll work out.
Exactly. Now, speaking while we're talking about other teams, while we go through some teams, there was some activity last week.
That's an understatement.
Any teams that you want to speak of directly?
Yeah, just bounce around a couple of them.
Starting Minnesota. Minnesota was all over the place this past week.
Yeah.
They actually just released Garrett Bradbury with a post-June 1st cut today.
I saw that.
Well, I mean, they beefed up their offensive line. They added Ryan Kelly. They got Will Fry. And they already had a really good offensive line to begin with.
They did.
Now you just add two more solid bodies to it. Bernsey, let me tell you what I think about the Colts in general. I love the Cam Bynum signing because not only did they sign Cam Bynum, they also signed Tre'Davious Ward away from the Niners. The Colts are remaking their secondary. The Colts have a good roster. They've got a good secondary. They've got good linebackers. They have a solid defensive line. They have solid wide receivers, and they have Jonathan Taylor, and they still have a good offensive line. The problem is the problem is, hold on, that their quarterback is Anthony Richardson, and his competition is white Anthony Richardson. I'm actually intrigued by a quarterback battle because both of these quarterbacks are the same player. I am actually excited to watch this battle between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson because they are the same player.
Anyways, back to the Vikings.
Well, wait, hold on. Bernsey wants my opinion on the Cam Bynum deal.
He asked for the opinion on Cam Bynum, not whatever's going on with their QB competition.
I'm sorry, but the Colts make me laugh.
I don't think anyone wants to think about that. That's just depressing.
So no, Bernsey, Cam Bynum got a big deal, but he had a good year last year. 96 total tackles, 3 interceptions. And he's still young. He's only 26. I like the deal. I like what the Colts have done. I like their few moves with getting him and getting Ward. They're building a solid little secondary over there with the Colts.
They are.
Bernsey, actually, not at the moment. Julian Blackmon is actually a free agent. Let me see who else. Let me go see who the other Colts safety is for you real quick. It would not be Blackmon as of right now. He is a free agent. Anthony said the Giants are hosting Jameis Winston tomorrow. Please let that happen.
Oh, man. I'd love to hear Jameis mic'd up 2 weeks out of the year.
Okay, let me get this out for Bernsey. Bernsey, right now the Colts safeties are Cam Bynum and Nick Cross. Cross had a very good year this past year. 145 tackles, 3 interceptions. How many damn tackles can you get as a safety? So Bernsey, there's that for you, just so you know that is their safety room right now. That's a lot of freaking tackles for a safety.
Mm-hmm. Well, now I see why they're not bringing back Julian Blackmon.
Yeah, and Blackman's a good player.
Yeah, it's not even because he's not a good player.
And they have Jalen Jones on the other side of Ward. So they got a solid secondary over there in Indianapolis. The Colts defense in general is actually not bad.
It's not. They can make something happen if they can actually move the football.
They're just going to run Jonathan Taylor into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Bernsey, I think Black may end up being an Eagle. I think that's a very intriguing name in terms for the Eagles to look out for. Oh, wait, what's this? Anthony said Winston's speech in the offseason. Barkley, who's that? We got everybody we need right here. Oh, my God. Jameis Winston needs, I don't know where Winston's going to end up, but
WWE.
I hope it's, what's that?
WWE.
But all right, let's go back to the Vikings here and our little free agent bounce around here. You know what else they really needed? Interior defensive line help. Yep. Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard did all they could last year off the edge. And Dallas Turner was a rookie, but he was rotating in as like that third edge rusher for them. They could not create any interior pass rush whatsoever. So what do? They go out and get 2 guys that are special Their specialty is that. Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen.
Yep.
I don't know they're going to be able to stop the run next year, but they'll get to the pass run. They'll get to the passer. We know that.
Yeah, they'll get some sacks.
And it's almost like Vic Fangio. As long as Brian Flores is man in that defense, they're in good shape. Now the question just is, what are they doing at quarterback?
Who knows?
It's not really to do with McCarthy. It's because they only have one quarterback on the roster, which is McCarthy.
They should bring in James.
It's been rumored. Joe Flacco's another name you could think about with that.
Yeah, I could see that. Bring Flacco
I think
in.
Flacco. Actually, here's the funny thing. Vikings fan page on Twitter. The Vikings are one of few teams that have checked in on Joe Flacco. Now, that's funny.
It's crazy how you have all these teams currently waiting for Aaron Rodgers to make up his damn mind. I think it's 3 teams, isn't it? It's the Vikings, the Steelers, and who's the other
Giants.
one? And the Giants, yeah. Because everyone wants Rodgers as their first guy, but they're willing to settle for Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson just sitting around. He's like, all right, I'm ready to sign, guys. Oh, sorry, we didn't hear back from our number 1 choice yet.
How about saying, let's call this out what it is, okay? One of these teams will end up with Aaron Rodgers. The first team the runner-up will end up with Russell Wilson, and then the third team will end up with either Jameis Winston or Joe Flacco. That's how that's going to go. And good Lord, I hope it's the Giants. I don't even care who the Giants end up with. It's going to be a shit show. Aaron Rodgers, shit show. Russell Wilson, sorry. And it's going to be like you're back in Seattle with that offensive line. And then Jameis Winston and Joe Flacco. Oh, good God. Oh, my God. I forgot about this. Did you see this? That New England is asking for a third-round pick for Joe Milton? Why would I give you a third-round pick for Joe Milton? Because he throws a football at a freaking pad at wall fast?
Yeah. That's it.
Why?
How about you guys actually get him on the field a little bit? Doesn't have to be started. Get him on the field preseason. Actually give some teams something to look at. It's like, cool, you can throw a football. Can you play in the NFL?
Yeah, like, can you read a defense?
Mm-hmm.
Bernsey said he'd actually be a great option for the Giants. Bernsey, I hope I'm assuming you're talking about Rodgers. Honestly, we might as well talk about the quarterbacks now, and we'll jump back to that.
He needs to get out of MetLife. He's another one of those MetLifers, man. You don't want to be a MetLife for life.
You just said you don't want to be a MetLifer?
No.
Wouldn't that make more sense?
I did say that. And then I kept going.
You took it too far.
We're talking about MetLife. Of course it's too far.
All right, we'll talk about the quarterback here. Then we'll just bring up some teams that we thought have had big weeks. Aaron Rodgers, Tyler, where do you think he's going to end up?
You're asking me to try to pick the mind of a madman? At the end of the day, if I had to pick, I think he would choose the team where he can finish his Brett Favre legacy journey. He's going to the Vikings. He's going. He's going to do it. He's going to hang it up with the Vikings.
Why? Why would you do this to me?
So if that happens, then we're looking at Wilson most likely going to the Giants.
I think if that happens, they jump at the chance, and I think the Steelers re-sign him.
You think so?
They're going to panic.
Yeah, that would be panic mode at that point. I don't know, man. I don't see Rodgers fitting in Pittsburgh
And why is that?
because he's a diva. George Pickens is a diva. DK Metcalf is somewhat of a diva.
Honestly, yeah, but for a team that just signed and traded for DK Metcalf, for a team that has him and George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth, you got a decent running back tandem there with Kenny Gainwell and Jalen Warren, and their defense is still going to win you games early and keep you in games late. That may be all they need for at least a year to say, maybe we can make some noise here. Because come on,
They could
be real. Aaron Rodgers still to this day would be an upgrade over what last year's Russell Wilson.
He is, because I even defended Rodgers a lot last year and kept going back and comparing his stats to these other quarterbacks. The Jets in general are just bad, but if you break down Rodgers' stats each week, he's still getting it done.
Yeah.
He's still very accurate. His completion percentage is high. He's going to manage the game. He might average like 200 yards. And he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions.
Oh, and he's still able to throw the ball downfield a little bit. And you'll have no issue getting the ball out to DK or to George Pickens with him here.
Honestly, I still think his top destination would be the Vikings with Jettas, Addison. Like, a lot of good weapons to work with there. Definitely Pittsburgh is a good runner-up for him. I don't think the Giants are a good fit for him at all.
The Vikings and Steelers are almost like the same thing. Two very good outside wide receivers, good tight ends in T.J. Hockenson and Pat Freiermuth. I will give the Vikings the edge at running back. I think Aaron Jones clears anybody on Pittsburgh. I will say the Vikings' offensive line is better.
Yeah.
And two very good defenses. So honestly, yeah, it's one or the other. The Giants are exactly what I said they were when we were talking about Stafford. They are in desperation panic mode. They are trying to find a veteran quarterback so they can save their job. I told you guys this weeks ago. You all didn't believe me, and this is where we are. Because the Giants, offensively, running back, they have Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary. Okay, whatever. They still have Malik Nabers, yes. But outside of that, nothing. Offensive line, dog shit. Now, I will say this about the Giants. They have actually spent a little bit of money on their defense. Again.
Still no quarterback, but
they'll have Dexter Lawrence back next year. They're going to have guys in there. They signed somebody to their defensive line. Who was it? They signed Chauncey Golston away from the Cowboys. He had a solid year last year, 5.5 sacks. You have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau as your edge rushers. Bobby O'Keefe still man in the middle. They tried, apparently, in free agency to shore up their secondary. I mean, they had Tyler Nubin and Drew Phillips last year as rookies. I thought they both played very well. So they have both of them. They have Deontay Banks, who was their first-round pick in 2023. Still kind of up and down, but still someone they can get right, hopefully. But then they went out in free agency and they spent money on Paulson Adebo, who was a corner from the Saints. Solid year last year, 3 interceptions, 52 picks. He'll be the full-time outside starter. And they went and signed Javon Holland from the Dolphins, who was one of the best safeties on the market. So the Giants' defense isn't the problem. They got a lot of talent on it. They just don't have a damn quarterback or an offensive line or capable weapon.
They're really hoping on getting Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. But I honestly think the Giants are the third destination for both of them. I feel like wherever Rodgers goes, Russ is going to the other one between the Vikings or the Steelers. And then I think it's just gonna they're gonna get stuck with Jameis, man. It's gonna happen.
For the Giants?
The Giants, they're gonna get stuck with Jameis.
Oh my God.
Honestly, Jameis Winston might be the best quarterback they've had in like the last few years. Daniel Jones, so bad.
Fair enough.
Hey, at least my man Jameis, his career highlights 30 for 30. All right. Threw for like 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. I mean, come on. What's Daniel Jones' career highlight? He couldn't score a touchdown in MetLife for 2 years?
Oh, no. His career highlight was running down the field of the Lincoln tripping.
Poor Daniel Jones.
Real quickly, while we're on that subject, let's go back to an old Birds of the Gridiron segment of Random Eagle of the Week. Remember that segment we used to do?
Oh, my.
Can you name... Now, you know the famous Daniel Jones run.
Yes.
At the link. Can you tell me the last Eagle that was pictured before he tripped?
Last Eagle that was in the picture?
Yes. Can you name him?
He was an Eagle then, and he's still an Eagle now?
No. He's not an Eagle now.
But he was an Eagle then. Okay.
Unfortunately.
That trip, what was that? 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
It was 2020.
Oh my God! It was that long ago?
Uh-huh.
Jesus. Where's the time gone? Oh my God.
Do you need more hints on who this player is?
Yeah, give me another hint.
He was a corner.
Corner? I mean, I feel like that would be that's the last line of defense there because he like cooked the whole defense. All right. Corner, 2020.
He was a nickel. Nope.
Oh.
He was a nickel corner.
Nickel Roby-Coleman.
Yep, Nickel Roby-Coleman.
You gave it away. You gave it away.
He was a nickel corner.
Yeah, you gave it away.
I was just trying.
I can't believe that was 2020. Man.
Burns, you said Jerry Jones once again signing rejects to end up getting cut before the season even starts. 2 years ago, we cut a running back from Tampa Bay. Last year, we cut another running back from Denver. I don't know what he thought Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders are going to do together. And I got some Cowboy fans comparing it to Gibbs and Montgomery, and I'm laughing. But
Gibbs and Montgomery. Now, I'm willing to be generous and give you Montgomery because Montgomery wasn't a huge name coming from the Bears. He was good, but he definitely made a name for himself with the Lions. Newsflash, they got one of the top offensive lines. Those are kind of important to make your running backs look great.
Yep.
So good luck with that. Let's see who retires next.
Oh my God, Georgie with a paragraph.
Oh man.
All right, hold on. I can't even freaking put this has to be right off the screen. So Georgie said Rodgers isn't going to get the money from the Vikings. So he says, per Pat, if he doesn't get the Vikes, he's going to retire. Winston is now in New York's office today. I think they aren't waiting for Rodgers. Wilson got a small offer, just like what Cleveland gave, and he is like, I would like to see my options and then go back to the Steelers. That's why the Steelers haven't really signed anyone, and nobody even confirmed Rodgers contacted the Steelers. That's all media saying, and that he was possibly, and hold on a second, I lost track as another comment popped up. and say he was possibly and going to eventually, meaning he has not been in contact with them. Only the Giants and Vikings have been confirmed talking to Rodgers. Oh, Georgie with the inside information.
Wow. So
So
he
there
wants
is
the
no.
Vikings to open up the checkbook. They're not going to. I told you, Sam. He wants to complete his Brett Favre legacy path.
Well, then all he has to do after that is retire, get into a fight with Mark Gastineau, and we're good.
Done.
Just saying. Oh, easily done. I hope Gastineau beats the crap out of him. But okay, so all right, Tyler, let's finish these predictions up. Aaron Rodgers ends up in
Minnesota.
Now I agree, Minnesota, because George just ruined my Steelers take.
That's interesting. I didn't know that he hasn't even been contacted by them.
I swore I thought you'd think the Steelers would, but that makes too much sense. Burnsy said Cowboys should have signed a D tackle, linebacker, or wide receiver. This is stupid. Again, going cheap. Okay, well, Burnsy, they did bring Dante Fowler back, and he just had a really good year for the Commanders. He had 10 sacks.
Yeah.
So that'll give you a little edge help with Micah, but I still agree with what you're saying.
They're going cheap because they are going to need to pay Micah a lot of money soon.
Well, yeah, because the Cowboys are another team that waits to pay its stars.
Yep.
Georgie said Rodgers ends up retired, LOL.
That'd be hilarious.
That's fair enough. I'm going to go Minnesota. He's not going to the Giants. The Giants need Aaron Rodgers more than Aaron Rodgers needs. The Giants don't have enough. I don't even think the Giants have enough to pry Aaron Rodgers towards them anyway. You got Malik Neighbors and who?
Malik Neighbors and his neighbor.
And his neighbor. Good one. All right, Tyler. Russell Wilson. Where's he at? Where's he going?
He's going back to Pittsburgh.
I agree.
It's done.
Where else would he go?
And it's either Jameis Winston or Joe Flacco to the Giants.
I think it's going to be Jameis Winston.
Most likely.
But I can see it. He's going to go back to Pittsburgh. It's the only shot Pittsburgh has at competing at all. Not that it's a good one, but yeah. I'm going to say he's going to end up returning to the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree.
And Georgie says Wilson Steelers, unless the Browns sweeten the deal like always with some for sure money. Yeah, the Browns could sneak in there. That'd be kind of funny though. Now, in terms of how we can throw them in there, who do you think ends up with the Giants? Winston or Flacco?
Probably Winston.
I agree. I could see Flacco ending up back in Cleveland.
I mean, hey, he brought them a pretty special moment.
I could definitely see Joe Flacco ending up. I could definitely see Flacco ending up back in Cleveland.
Because Cleveland, they need a gap year guy.
A couple year guy.
A couple years. It's not their year. Kenny Pickett's not their answer. Yeah, we're bringing Joe Flacco. Just do it.
Yes, Georgie, we said it. Winston, Giants, Flacco. You know why? Because I don't want to see Flacco on the Giants. I don't hate Winston.
You know what? No, you know why, George? It's because Cleveland fans do not appreciate Jameis Winston,
and that's why they got Kenny Pickett.
Yup, that's why they got Kenny Pickett.
And I'm only talking about one certain Cleveland fan, and Georgie knows who he is.
Hey, Kenny Pickett's going to get you through those years.
Sure he is. Georgie said Cleveland needs a few gap year guys to go through gap year guys for 30 years, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness. Any other things we have to bring up, Tyler?
I think we're caught up for now.
Yeah, we could bring up some free agency winners and stuff. We can do that to begin next week's show. We'll bring some of that stuff up because I have some segments that we can knock out of there. So I think it was a very good episode. Burnsy said, nope, they just signed Cooper Rush, even though Wait, who did Cooper Rush go to?
Is he talking about Cleveland?
Let me see. No, Burnsy. Cooper Rush actually signed with the Ravens. That's an interesting backup to Lamar Jackson. That's interesting. Cooper Rush going to Cleveland. That's something I would never have expected to hear.
That's interesting.
It is. But anyway, Tyler, do we have anything else you want to talk about for the people before we bid adieu?
That's about it.
All righty. Well, everyone, Burnsy's also saying he's glad Cooper Rush went over to Baltimore. Everyone, thank you all for joining us tonight on what was a fun episode of 609 Sports Talk. We talked about the Bengals paying their wide receivers. We talked some Eagles. We talked some NFL free agency stuff. One last comment for the road. Georgie said Cleveland messed up when they went for Watson and backstabbed Baker. And if they would have let Baker get healthy and that year he played hurt, this conversation is never happening. Rush went to the right. Yeah, he's right. And then George says, watch Trey Lance gets moved to Cleveland. My 49er luck.
Man.
That would be kind of funny, George. Burnsy says, great show, fellas. Thank you, Burnsy. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you, everybody who joined us tonight. Georgie, Burnsy, Anthony, Dalton, all our great fans for talking with us tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode. Just one last reminder, guys. Next week, beginning next week's show, 609 Sports Talk, new start time, 7 p.m. Eastern, every Monday, right here on Facebook and on YouTube. And, of course, you guys know you can catch us back on Spotify every Wednesday when this podcast drops. Carol saying, have a good one. Happy Shamrock Day. Yep. Carol, happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Thank you for joining us. We hope we got everybody up there who they're up to snuff on their NFL free agency. And, guys, NFL is going to dominate the show every week like we know it. So we hope you all enjoyed tonight's episode. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you guys next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. For Tyler Adams, I'm Sam Nelson. Good night, everybody.